Well, if you'd like to take your Bibles right now, we're going to open up this week to Matthew chapter 5. When I was a teenager out in California, one day I went with a friend of mine to a national park that was nearby that had some caves in it. And we got all excited and grabbed our flashlight and went out there and hiked around until we came to the opening of this cave, and we kind of crept in there, and it was, kind of dim. As we went further back, it got darker and darker and darker. But we had the flashlight, and I remember coming out into a room underground that was about the size of this room here, where we are, and it was just amazing. And so we had a great time until my friend dropped the flashlight and broke it, and I could not see anything. It was pitch dark, absolutely zero light. There we were. Well, as Jerry mentioned in the opening, we are living in some dark times, aren't we? This world is a dark, dark place. And how are the people of this world going to find God? How are they going to find Jesus? Jesus made the world by speaking it into existence. He upholds the world every day, keeping everything running. He has in his hand the life of every single person in this world. He's standing in front of the whole world, saying, "Come to me and I will save you," but people just are missing him. They're not seeing him because it's so dark, and they're running off after their different pursuits. How is the world going to see Jesus? And you know what the answer is? Look around. It's us. Look at Matthew 5, verse 14. You, verse 14, you are the light of the world. A city set on a hill can't be hidden, nor does anyone light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. So let your light shine before men in such a way that they see your good works and glorify your Father who is in heaven. Notice the third word of verse 14. What is the third word? It's just a little but it's a huge. It does not say you are a light of the world. It says you are the light of the world. In other words, there aren't many lights. There is one light, the light, and it's us. We are the light of the world. The light is not the government. The light is not science. The light is not amazing new businesses and technologies. They are not the light of the world. The church of God, God's people, are the light of the world. What makes us so special to be the light of the world? We are the only ones who shine on God, who illuminate God. To glorify God means to make him seen and bright. To glorify something means to make it bright. The government can do a lot of amazing things, but when they do things well, do they shine the light of glory on God and say, "Look at him"? No, it's on, "Look at us." And big businesses and science and new technologies can do amazing things, but they shine the light on themselves when things go well. But the church of God, we are the only ones who will turn the light of things going right and say, "Look at God." Now, sometimes we don't do that very well, but that is what happens when we do well. We shine a light on God so that in this darkness where nobody really can see anything in front of them, they suddenly see God. That he's there and that he loves them and he's ready to help them and that he wants and calls everyone to himself and that he's great and magnificent and has done everything needed to be done. They can see and run to him. Now, what is it about us that shines light on God so the world can see? What does the verse say? Let them see your good works and shine the light on God. It is our good works, as we do good works, that illuminates God in our dark world and shows people there's hope. There's hope in this place. Well, I mentioned this because last week I talked about the fact that I am not the only minister at Samuel's Church. I said that God says that we are all, every one of us here today is one of the ministers of Samuel's Church Familiar passage, Ephesians 4:11 says he gave some as apostles and some as prophets and some as evangelists and some as pastors and teachers. Why? For the perfecting of the saints. For what? For the work of the ministry. If you're a Christian here today at Samuel's Church, you are in the ministry. I am here to prepare you, to equip you, to perfect you for the work of the ministry. But we have many ministers here at Samuel's Church. And I pointed that out last week, and one of you afterwards said, okay, so if we are the ministers of Samuel's Church, you need to teach us how to minister. How do we go out and minister to people? Okay, so we're going to spend the next couple of weeks looking at just how can every single person in this room go and minister. How do we do that? What needs to be done? You are a minister of Samuel's Church if you're here today and a Christian. Do you know what you're supposed to be doing as you go out there? Do you know how to minister to people? Well, God not only assigns us the task of being ministers, he also tells us how to be ministers. And right here, at the beginning of the Sermon on the Mount, chapters 5, 6, and 7 are Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. Jesus has 3 different activities that we are to do when we're out in the world that minister and shine light on him so that people can see him. So right now, we're going to be looking at 3 good works that shine light on God. 3 good works that you can do as you leave this building that will shine the light on God. A lot of the commands in the Sermon on the Mount are personal commands about how we're supposed to maybe treat other Christians or things we're supposed to do for ourselves. The 3 commands we're going to be looking at today have to do with what we're supposed to be doing out there as we go to school and go to work and in our neighborhoods and go to the grocery store. 3 things to shine light on God. There is hope for this very, very dark world, and it's us shining light so that they see God and go to him. So let's see what we can do. And I'll tell you right at the beginning, none of this is new. Okay, you're going to know all these things. But the question isn't if we're knowing it, the question is if we're doing it. So check yourself. Maybe you've been sloppy, maybe you haven't seen the potential that you have. But allow these 3 good works to encourage you to go out and live the 3 good works. All right, let's start with verse 33. Chapter 5, verse 33 says this. Again, you have heard the ancients were told, you shall not make false vows, but you shall fulfill your vows to the Lord. But I, Jesus, say to you, make no oath at all, either by heaven, for it is God's throne, or by earth, for it is the footstool of his feet, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. Nor shall you make an oath by your head, for you cannot make one hair white or black. But let your statements be yes, yes, no, no. Anything beyond these is evil. All right. The first good work that shines lights on God, according to these verses, is honesty. This says, shine by being an honest person. That's in your insert there. Shine by being an honest person. You know, most people learn pretty early in life that you don't have to always tell the truth. In fact, if you don't tell the truth, sometimes things go much better for you than if you tell the truth. You learn very quickly, if you lie, you can get out of trouble. If you lie, you can impress people. If you lie, you can gain an advantage over somebody else. Lying can really get you a lot of things that you want in this world, and practically everybody lies every day. In Jesus' day, everyone knew that everybody lied, and that's why he said these words that he said, because they had come up with a sophisticated system to be able to convince people that they're really telling the truth this time. See, there's certain things like, I'm selling you this teapot, and is it a good teapot? And of course everyone is going to lie and say it's a good teapot, but how do you, if everyone's known for lying, how do you really convince, no, really, this time I'm telling the truth? Well, they came up with a system of vows that they would take. They would say, well, I swear to you by Jerusalem itself, I'm telling you the truth. Or I swear to you by, God himself, or by my own head. And all these different things they came up with to convince people that they were actually telling the truth. Just saying, yes, it's a good teapot wasn't enough. You had to say yes with a vow, and then people would say, oh, okay, well, now you're really telling the truth. That's what Jesus is dealing with here. And he has something to say. Jesus says, I need you to be different. I need you to shine light on me by being honest all the time. Not just when you're making a particular vow, but I want you to be people who shine light on me by being honest people all the time. That's what Jesus is saying in these verses. Stop using oaths to convince people that you are telling the truth, and just be known for being an honest person, so that when you say, yes, it's this way, people say, oh, okay. Or no, it's not that way. Okay, that's enough. That's what God calls us to do. And that shines brightly on him when you and I just go out and tell the truth. So what is your degree of honesty in life? What is your degree of honesty? Young people, are you known by your parents for being honest, by your teacher for being honest, by your friends that you're an honest person? Adults, are you known by your coworkers and by your boss as being an honest person? He's honest. She's an honest person. God says that shines brightly on me. And if it's not the case, make sure you change that. If you can think of some way in which you are being dishonest, go to that person, apologize, and commit yourself to being an honest person. And not just once in a while, but having a reputation for being an honest person. That's what God commands us to do. Being a student who is known for his honesty. Be an employee. Be a neighbor who's known for being honest. Does that describe you? God says, when you and I do that, we shine light on God. And when someone compliments you for being honest, don't say, yeah, thank you. You want to say, thank you very much. But you know what? God made me this way. I wasn't like this. This is only happened because God's changed my life. And put the shine on him, not on yourself. So how do you shine light on God in a dark world? First of all, just be an honest person. Be known as an honest person. Go about being telling the truth. A second good work that shines light on God is found in verse 38. Look at verse 38. You have heard that it was said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist an evil person. But whoever slaps you on the right cheek, turn the other to him also. If anyone wants to sue you and take your shirt, let him have your coat also. Whoever forces you to go 1 mile with him, go with him 2. All right. The second way to minister to others and shine light on God is generosity. Be known as a generous person. A generous person. We live in a world where people hurt each other all the time. All the time. And what is the world's common response to getting hurt? This person, she pulled my hair. What am I going to do? I'm going to pull her hair back. He insulted me. I'm going to insult him back. Get even is the world's way, right? We all know that. We've all done that. Jesus says, I need you to be different. You're not going to shine light on me in this dark, dark world by getting even with those who hurt you. Instead, I want you to be a person who, when someone hurts you, you're generous in return. That'll get their attention. That you're a generous person in return. Verse 39 says, don't resist an evil person. Now that's quite a little phrase, isn't it? What in the world is he talking about? Don't resist an evil person. So a foreign government comes across your borders and tries to take your freedoms. Don't resist them. A robber comes into your home. Don't resist that person. No. That's not what this is talking about. Is Jesus talking about governments in these verses? No. He's not talking about how governments are supposed to respond to enemies. He's not talking about how individuals are supposed to respond when robbers break into your home. In fact, God commanded Israel, right, to defend herself and even wage war against her enemies. Jesus, when evil people were in his Father's house, he took quite a bit of action to resist the evil that was going on there. Now, what is being talked about, the subject at hand that Jesus is talking about, is when people personally mistreat you? How are you going to respond when people mistreat you as a person? He says you've got to be different. You can't be going in there and attacking back for those who attack you. If someone insults you with a slap in the face, you don't attack them back. When someone wants to take you to court and take your shirt, which was a way that you could get payment out of someone, they said gift wrap your coat and give it to them too. And when a Roman soldier, tries to force you to carry his backpack for a mile, which was the law, be generous and offer to take it another mile. Jesus is saying you're going to make a huge difference in this world if you respond when you're mistreated by others in a generous way. You'll shine the spotlight right on me because it's going to be so strange and unusual. Be a generous person. You put it this way. Personal mistreatment, the world says, the world's way of responding is to attack back. And Jesus' command for responding is to be generous back. Not easy to do. But he says when you do that, they will see your good works and glorify. It will glorify your Father. So when a member of yours hurts your dignity by insulting you, don't attack them back. Find something nice to do for them. Find something nice to do for them. When a coworker purposefully damages something of yours to hurt you because they don't like you, find something to do back that's nice to them. Totally, totally different than what they would expect. Something to do nice for them. Your boss forces you to work overtime when you shouldn't need to and you don't want to. Do it cheerfully. Be generous as they're forcing you to do something. This doesn't mean that you don't inquire or reason with the person who's being difficult. It doesn't mean you don't appeal to your boss and say, well, look, this isn't fair. I worked last week. And it doesn't mean that you don't do all those things to try to, get along with that person who's mistreating you. But as you're doing it, you're being generous, not harsh and hostile and nasty. And if it doesn't go your way, you still are generous and you return good to that person who is mistreating you. You might offer to just simply get them a cup of coffee. Can I get you a cup of coffee? I know you've been really terrible to me last week, but could I take you out to lunch today? Maybe just saying hi to them as you pass by them and, you feel, angry and like mistreating them, but you're killing that because you want to shine the light of generosity on God, and so you treat them in a generous way. This is not a natural thing to do at all, but it's what God says. You'll stand out. You'll make a difference. Why isn't God protecting you from a certain nasty person in your life? You might be asking that. God, I've been praying and praying. Why are you letting this person mistreat me? And I'm trying to get away from them. There's nothing that seems to be working. It might be exactly so that your response to that will be seen by other people and may end up being impressed with God. When you respond with generosity, then people say, wow, her God really means something to her. Now, if God didn't allow that conflict to go on in the first place, you wouldn't have that opportunity to shine generosity on God. If you're going and facing through something hard, it might be the very reason God wants to show others what a Christian does when they're mistreated. Why did God allow Joseph in Egypt to be able to be terribly mistreated by his brothers, betrayed and sold as a slave? Why would God allow that? He said at the very end of his life, you meant it for evil, but God meant it for good. And how did he treat his brothers when he finally met up with them? He embraced them and kissed them. That's generous. That's generous. What did David do when he found Saul, who is hunting him down to kill him? He finds Saul in a cave asleep right there in front of him. He spares his life. What does Stephen do as he's being stoned to death by the Jewish leaders? He prays for them, that God would forgive them. That's generous. And when they responded in those generous ways, it just lit up God. And this dark world suddenly saw God and what he's like and what he can do to change a person's life. So if you're being mistreated by somebody, examine your ways. Are you responding with generosity, or are you responding the way the world does, just getting even with them, getting back at them, treating them the way they treated you? God may be allowing this for the very reason so that he wants you to respond with generosity, and it makes God glow in this dark world. So consider how you're responding to people who mistreat you. A third way to shine light on God is found over in Matthew 7. Flip over to Matthew 7. There's a lot of commands in there, but not many that have to do with what we do with other people. Matthew 7, look at verse 1. It says, "Do not judge." Matthew 7:1. "Do not judge so that you will not be judged. For in the way you judge, you will be judged. And by your standard of measure, it will be measured to you. Why do you look at the speck that is in your brother's eye, but do not notice the log that is in your own eye? Or how can you say to your brother, 'Let me take the speck out of your eye,' and behold, the log is in your own eye? You hypocrite! First take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye." A third way to minister and shine light on God is being helpful. Simply being helpful. Shine by being a helpful person. By being a helpful person. Jesus knows that we live among people who sin all the time, and that the temptation when we see others sin, not against us, but just doing sins, is to play judge in their life. You see what she just did? She just lied. She's a liar. He's a terrible, lazy guy. That guy over there, he's so materialistic, he loves money. That pastor, he's just being religious because he wants people to notice him. And on and on and on it goes. We see people sin, and we judge them, play judge in their lives. Remember the Pharisee who was in the temple. He went in there and he prays in Luke 18:11. The Pharisee stood and was praying this to himself: "God, I thank you that I'm not like other people, swindlers and unjust and adulterers, or even like this tax collector." What was the Pharisee doing? He was playing judge over that tax collector's life. He was condemning him as he was standing there praying to God and looking at the tax collector over there. And yes, those guys were known for being sinful. Absolutely they were. And he played judge in his life. What does a judge do? A judge sits on an elevated seat, right? And people come before him, and then he determines whether they're innocent or guilty, right? You're guilty, you're guilty, you're innocent. You're guilty, you're guilty, you're innocent, you're guilty. That's what a judge does. And we can all be tempted to do the same thing, sit up above other people and just start handing out condemnation to the different people that we think are doing things the wrong way. What does Jesus say? Jesus says, you've got to be different. If you're going to shine light on me in a dark world, and you do that, you're just going to blend in with everybody else. You need to be different and shine a light on me by being helpful when you see other people sin. Not judges, helpful when you see other people sin. Yes, we're surrounded by sinful people, but our response is to be helpful to them when we see it going on. Now, two things must be mentioned here to not misunderstand this, because this can easily be misunderstood. Number one, and this is in your insert, it is not sinful to notice someone's bad behavior. It is not sinful to notice their sinful behavior. You know, people will say, well, you shouldn't judge me, and just like we're blind and we don't see anybody doing anything, just, keep your head down and keep moving forward. That's not what the Bible says. In fact, jump down to verse 15. Matthew 7:15, it says, "Beware of the false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves. You will know them by their fruits." Okay, Jesus is warning us. Someone stands up and claims to be a religious leader. Just don't accept his word for it. Notice his life, the fruit of his life coming out. You have to be able to look and discern if another person is living in sin or if they're living in righteousness. So When Jesus says don't judge, it doesn't mean you don't notice. You don't stop noticing when other people sin. That's not what he means. Nor, number two, on your insert, it is not sinful to address sinful behavior in others. It's not sinful to address it. As we've all known, Matthew 18:15, if your brother sins, go and show him his fault in private. God says, yes, there's some sinful behavior that's not serious enough, that we just need to be patient with one another with our faults and failures. But there is a category of sins that are so serious that we say, look, for this person's sake, we need to help them. We need to go to them. We need to speak. We need to address this in their lives. That is noticing and then addressing if it's serious enough to do it. Jesus commands it. Notice and address. But as you're doing that, don't play judge. That's hard, right? That's tricky. Notice. Maybe you see, pastor's worrying about his future, and he's, it's really consuming him. I don't think it's just something we can ignore. He's really upset, so you notice it, and then you address it. Pastor, it seems to me like you're really worried about something that God says you need to trust to him. Notice it, address it, but don't play judge over me. How do you do that? That's tricky, but God says we have to get that right. Don't sit as a judge, but do notice and address what needs to be addressed. Well, I think the line there determines on whether or not you're letting love take the lead. I put this up here. When someone sins, leading with judging says, you're sinning, I condemn you. That's leading with judging. But leading with love says, you are sinning, let me help you. See the difference? The judge up on his stand is not worrying about helping out the criminal. His job is just, nope, you're condemned. And it's not like, now, what can I do to make your life better? That's not his job. That's what playing judge does too. That woman's lazy, I condemn her. That man's, selfish, I condemn him. And with no attempt to help. But when we let love lead, we stop playing judge in a person's life. And yes, we are making judgments by noticing their sin, addressing their sin. But we're not sitting above them. We're right alongside, level with them, and putting our arm around them and saying, how can I help you? So in your insert, Jesus' command when others sin, number one, don't play judge and condemn them. Don't do that, he's saying here. Let love lead. What did the Pharisee in the temple do? What was he doing? He was letting judgment lead. He was saying, that guy down there, you're a sinner, I condemn you. You're a tax collector, you're bad. And then walking away. But what if he had done the other? What if he said, I noticed that tax collector down there, and I'm certain he has a reputation, maybe I know he has a reputation for being a cheat and a scoundrel. And he's a sinner. But what can I do to help him? Could I somehow meet with him and see what I can do? Can I pray for him? That would have totally been different, right? But he had no intention of helping the man. He just had the intention of condemning the man. And that was playing judge. That was wrong. So number one, Jesus' command about others, seeing others' sins, don't play judge. Number two, on your insert, says, first, examine your own life. Don't play judge, but then examine your own life. Notice verse 5 says, verse 5, first, take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. Notice it doesn't say that it's wrong to take the speck out of your brother's eye. That's not wrong. But it's wrong to do it before you've examined your own life. The first thing you need to do is examine your own life to see if you've got something in your own eye. It's not wrong. It's not wrong to do it. It can be, but it can be in the wrong order. And nor does your life have to be perfect before you can help someone out. It just needs not to be a perfect life, but it needs to be an examined life. Have you examined your life? Where are there open doors of sin in my life? And you say, wow, okay. Yeah, I don't have a very good attitude about this. I've been worrying about this. I've not been obeying God in this area. So you shut these doors. You seek to get things right, and then you can go and help the other person. But when you start with examining your own life, it does something. You're going to approach that person differently, aren't you? You're not going to approach them with pride. You're going to approach them with humility because you know that you've got your own faults. You're not going to approach them with satisfaction, I caught you, but with reluctance because you're a sinner too. And you're not going to do it with harshness, but you're going to do it with tenderness. Jesus uses the word picture here of the eye and helping someone with their eye. That's on purpose here. How would you actually help someone who had something in their eye? Would you be harsh about it? Would you be insensitive? No, man, it'd be the most tender, careful thing that you would do, right? If you're trying to help something out of their eye. That's the way we're supposed to approach people. But we approach ourselves first. What am I doing that is not being right and I need to take care of? That's the second step. First, examine your own life. Shut those doors. And then the third step there in your insert, then seek to help others. Then seek to help that person. You see them sin. You don't play judge over them. You look at your own life first to make sure it's in line. And then you seek to help them. That's what Jesus is saying here. Verse 5. Then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your brother's eye. That's a good thing. But just don't jump in there playing judge without examining your own your own life first. Exactly how you help the person depends on the situation. As I said, sometimes the situation demands immediate attention. This person is doing something clearly sinful and it's harming other people, and you need to immediately step in and go to them and say, hey, what are you doing? You need, how can I help you get out of this? Because you're doing something that's very harmful to yourself or to others. There's another situation where someone may be doing a very clear sin like that, but you don't know the person. You really haven't earned the right to be able to do that. Or maybe they live far away and you don't have the opportunity to go to them. Then at the very least that you can do is pray. Pray that God convict them. Pray that God sends someone to them. Maybe it's just something you've observed, out in the community, and you saw another Christian who you don't know very well do something that was really not good. Pray for that person. Do something to help them. Also, it needs to be said that we aren't supposed to do this for non-Christians. We don't do this for non-Christians. This command is for Christians. It says in 1 Corinthians 5:12, "It is not my responsibility to judge outsiders, non-Christians, but it certainly is your job to judge those inside the church who are sinning." And that judging means by going to the person and speaking to them about their sin. Speaking to a non-Christian about getting drunk or about having sex outside of marriage is not what God calls us to do. That person could clean up their life and take care of all of these individual sins, but what? They'd still go to hell. Because there's the one major sin in the life that they need to get a hold of, and that is not receiving Christ as Savior. Now, we might say to them and then speak to them about the fact that they have individual sins in their life. But the real issue, the thing that we need to speak to non-Christians about is not the individual sins. It's about receiving Christ and believing in Him and putting their faith in Him. We aren't called to go around and be addressing the smaller individual sins of non-Christians. But Christians who are on our team and are in the family of God, yes, because we all need each other as a safety net. We all do. So how do we respond when other people sin? Number one, Jesus says, minister to them, which shines light on God, but don't play judge over them and condemn them. First examine your own life, and then go and find some way to help them. And when you will do that, God says, you'll shine light on me. And if you get a compliment by someone saying, well, thank you for doing this, say, you know what, I appreciate the compliment, but it only happened because God's changed me. To God be the glory. Let the light shine on Him. So we started at the beginning. How is our dark, dark world going to see Christ? He's right here, isn't He? He's right here in this world. but it's such a dark place that people are not seeing him. And God has a way for people to see him. It's us. And it's by us doing good works. Let your light shine so that they see your good works and glorify your Father in heaven. And what are those good works? Very simple. Be an honest, generous, helpful person. Just go out there. As you leave these doors and as you go into the week, be an honest, generous, helpful person. And God says you'll stand out. And you'll be illuminating God. And people say, there he is. I see God in that generosity. I see God in that helpfulness, in that honesty. You are a minister of Samuel's church, in addition to me. But we are all the ministers. And there's a powerful way we can make a difference and stand out. Very few people live honest, generous, helpful lives. If you will go out there and do that, you will stand out and shine brightly on God. So, that's your homework. My job is to perfect the saints for the work of the ministry. Now your job, as you leave today and next week, go out there and live honest, generous, helpful lives. Ready to do that? All right.